This is today's Bible reading. This is today's Bible reading, starting with the transition, returning to the West Shore. As with the reports of the exorcism of Legion, Matthew recounts the healings of Jairus' daughter and of the woman with a hemorrhage in considerably less detail than do Mark and Luke. Matthew's emphasis is on the role of faith in the healings rather than on the manner in which they were accomplished. While Mark relates Jesus' foreign language phrase, Talitha Kumi, Matthew omits such detail, possibly because it resembles incarnations of the Hellenistic magic texts. Instead, he reports the additional healings of 2 blind men and a mute demon-possessed man, again explicitly emphasizing the blind man's faith. Keeping a secret of the new life given Jairus' previously deceased daughter would have been impossible. So some have thought that when Jesus charged her parents to tell no one what had happened, he was referring specifically to what had transpired in the girl's room. Perhaps Jesus wanted to leave open the possibility in the minds of some that the girl had actually only been sleeping, lest his fame for raising the dead should become a hindrance to his continuing ministry. Now Matthew 9:18 through 34. A girl restored to life and a woman healed. While he spoke these things to them, behold, a ruler came and worshipped him, saying, My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live. So Jesus arose and followed him, and so did his disciples. And suddenly a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years came from behind and touched the hem of his garment. For she said to herself, If I only may touch his garment, I shall be made well. But Jesus turned around, and when he saw her, he said, Be of good cheer, daughter. Your faith has made you well. And the woman was made well from that hour. When Jesus came into the ruler's house and saw the flute players and the noisy crowd wailing, he said to them, Make room, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping. And they ridiculed him. But when the crowd was not put aside, he went in and took her by the hand, and the girl arose. And the report of this went out into all that land. 2 blind men healed. When Jesus departed from there, 2 blind men followed him, crying out and saying, Son of David, have mercy on us. And when he had come into the house, the blind men came to him, and Jesus said to them, Do you believe that I am able to do this? They said to him, Yes, Lord. Then he touched their eyes, saying, According to your faith, let it be to you. And their eyes were opened. And Jesus sternly warned them, saying, See that no one knows it. But when they had departed, They spread the news about him in all that country. A mute man speaks. As they went out, behold, they brought to him a man mute and demon possessed. And when the demon was cast out, the mute spoke. And the multitudes marveled, saying, it was never seen like this in Israel. But the Pharisees said, he cast out demons by the ruler of the demons. Mark 5:21 through 43. Faith born in desperation. Now when Jesus had crossed over again by boat to the other side, a great multitude gathered to him, and he was by the sea. And behold, one of the rulers of the synagogue came, Jairus by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet and begged him earnestly, saying, my little daughter lies at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, that she may be healed, and she'll live. So Jesus went with him, and a great multitude followed him and thronged him. Now a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years, and had suffered many things from many physicians. She had spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, if only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well. Immediately the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that power had gone out of him, turned around in the crowd and said, who touched my clothes? But his disciples said to him, you see the multitude thronging you, and you say, who touched me? And he looked around to see her who had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction. While he was still speaking, some came from the ruler of the synagogue's house, who said, your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further? As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, do not be afraid, only believe. And he permitted no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. Then he came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue and saw a tumult and those who wept and wailed loudly. When he came in, he said to them, why make this commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping. And they ridiculed him. But when he had put them all outside, he took the father and the mother of the child, and those who were with him, and entered where the child was lying. Then he took the child by the hand and said to her, Talita Kumi, which is translated, little girl, I say to you, arise. Immediately the girl arose and walked, for she was 12 years of age. And they were overcome with a great amazement. But he commanded them strictly that no one should know it, and said that something should be given her to eat. Now Luke 8:40 through 56. Healing a hemorrhage and restoring life. So it was when Jesus returned that the multitude welcomed him, for they were all waiting for him. And behold, there came a man named Jairus, and he was a ruler of the synagogue. And he fell down at Jesus' feet and begged him to come to his house, for he had an only daughter about 12 years of age, and she was dying. But as he went, the multitudes thronged him. Now a woman having a flow of blood for 12 years, who had spent all her livelihood on physicians and could not be healed by any, came from behind and touched the border of his garment. And immediately her flow of blood stopped. And Jesus said, who touched me? When all denied it, Peter and those with him said, Master, the multitudes throng and press you, and you say, who touched me? But Jesus said, somebody touched me, for I perceive the power going out from me. Now when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him. She declared to him in the presence of all the people the reason she had touched him and how she was healed immediately. And he said to her, "Daughter, be of good cheer. Your faith has made you well. Go in peace." While he was still speaking, someone came from the ruler of the synagogue's house, saying to him, "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher." But when Jesus heard it, he answered him, saying, "Do not be afraid, only believe, and she'll be made well." When he came into the house, he permitted no one to go in except Peter, James, and John, and the father and the mother of the girl. Now all wept and mourned for her, but he said, "Do not weep. She's not dead, but sleeping." And they ridiculed him, knowing that she was dead. But he put them all outside, took her by the hand, and called, saying, "Little girl, arise." Then her spirit returned, and she arose immediately. And he commanded that she be given something to eat. And her parents were astonished, but he charged them to tell no one what had happened. And Jesus said, now the scandalous faith. The rationale behind some of Israel's laws is not always clear to us. So it is with legislation governing the uncleanliness of bloody discharges from the body. According to the law of Moses, a flow of blood rendered a woman ceremonially unclean and communicated uncleanliness to anyone she touched. The woman Jesus encountered had experienced a continual flow of blood, not simply a monthly discharge that most likely forced her to remain single. If the problem started after her marriage, it probably led her husband to divorce her. In her case, ceremonial uncleanliness made her an outcast of her society. Since she had had the problem for 12 years, much of her life had been consumed by this illness. Because many people died in their 40s, her problem probably began sometime after puberty. She may have felt like half her adult life was already lost. Furthermore, in a culture where women remained economically dependent upon men, this woman's disease had exhausted her livelihood. She was desperate, so desperate that she would allow nothing to deter her from Jesus. Anyone this woman touched would be rendered unclean, so it was scandalous for her to press her way to Jesus through the crowd. Even touching Jesus' garment would make him unclean. If she was going to touch him, she must do so without announcing her intentions. Once the woman was healed, Jesus was unashamed to be identified publicly with her hardship. His greater concern was that she, as well as those looking on, should realize that her faith was the source of the healing. Jesus' power, unlike that of some other proclaimed wonder workers of his day, was not simply magic. Transition, rejection at Nazareth. Even at the midpoint of his Galilean ministry, Jesus continued to be met with resistance and unbelief in his hometown of Nazareth. Mark once again closely connects Jesus' miracles and his teachings. The people wondered what wisdom Jesus possessed to be able to perform such mighty works. Matthew characteristically maintains more of a distinction between teaching and miracles, speaking of them individually. This wisdom and these mighty works, being attracted to Jesus' miraculous works, is not sufficient to make one a true disciple of his. Faith, for Matthew, is crucial, and the limited miracles performed in Nazareth are directly attributed to the people's unbelief. Now Matthew 13:50 through 58. Jesus rejected. Now it came to pass when Jesus had finished these parables that he departed from there. When he had come to his own country, he taught them in their synagogue. so that they were astonished and said, "Where does this man get this wisdom and these mighty works? Is this not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary? And his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas? And his sisters, are they not all with us? Where then this man get all these things?" So they were offended at him. But Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own country and in his own house." Now he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Now Mark 6, 1 through 6, without honor in his own country. Then he went out from there and came to his own country, and his disciples followed him. And when the Sabbath had come, he began to teach in the synagogue. And many hearing him were astonished, saying, "Where did this man get these things? And what wisdom is this which is given to him, that such mighty works are performed by his hands? Is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us?" So they were offended at him. But Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own country, among his own relatives, and his own house." Now he could do no mighty works there, because except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. And he marveled because of their unbelief. Then he went about the villages in a circuit, teaching. Transition: Jesus' second visit to Jerusalem. According to John's Gospel, Jesus returned to Jerusalem to attend a pilgrimage feast. During this visit, he healed a lame man at the pool of Bethesda. And at Jesus' instruction, the man carried his bed away from the pool. He came into violation of the Sabbath prohibition against work. Jesus defended his healing works by associating them with those of his Father, but the opposition from the Jewish religious authorities only continued to mount. Not only had Jesus broken the Sabbath, but now he had also said that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. John records Jesus' extended defense of his special relationship with the Father and of the witnesses that testify to that relationship. It is impossible to identify the feast of the Jews, which forms the setting for this healing account. It could have been Pentecost. John explicitly identified Passover as the occasion for Jesus' previous pilgrimage. And Pentecost is the next feast after the combined festival of Passover and unleavened bread. Furthermore, the Feast of Pentecost was traditionally associated with the giving of the law to Moses at Mount Sinai. Thus, Jesus' allusions to the writings of Moses were possibly prompted by the occasion of Pentecost. Jesus' first Jerusalem pilgrimage might be dated to the spring Passover celebration of AD 27. This second pilgrimage could represent the Pentecost occurring only several weeks later, or be understood as Pentecost of the following year, early summer of AD 28. On the other hand, it could have been Passover of spring AD 28, or the Feast of Tabernacles in fall AD 28. Now the book of John, chapter 5, a man healed at the pool of Bethesda. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of sick people, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain time into the pool and stirred up the water. Then whoever stepped in first, after the stirring of the water, was made well of whatever diseases he had. Now a certain man was there who had an infirmity 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he already had been in that condition a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I am coming, another steps down before me." Jesus said to him, "Rise, take up your bed and walk." And immediately the man was made well, took up his bed, and walked. And that day was the Sabbath. The Jews therefore said to him who was cured, "It is the Sabbath. It is not lawful for you to carry your bed." He answered them, "He who made well said to me, 'Take up your bed and walk.'" Then they asked him, "Who is the man who said to you, 'Take up your bed and walk'?" But the one who was healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had withdrawn, a multitude being in that place. Afterward, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, "See, you have been made well. Sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon you." The man departed and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him well. Honor the Father and the Son. For this reason, the Jews persecuted Jesus and sought to kill him because he had done these things on the Sabbath. But Jesus answered them, "My Father has been working until now, and I have been working." Therefore, the Jews sought all the more to kill him, because he not only broke the Sabbath, but also said that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. Then Jesus answered and said to them, "Most assuredly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he sees the Father do. For whatever he does, the Son also does in like manner. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all things that he himself does, and he will show him greater works than these, that you may marvel. For as the Father raises the dead and gives life to them, even so the Son gives life to whom he will. For the Father judges no one, but has committed all judgment to the Son, that all should honor the Son just as they honor the Father. He who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. Life and judgment are through the Son. Most assuredly, I say to you, he who hears my word and believes in him who sent me has everlasting life, and shall not come into judgment, but has passed from death into life. Most assuredly, I say to you that the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live. For as the Father has life in himself, so he has granted the Son to have life in himself, and has given him authority to execute judgment also, because he is the Son of Man. Do not marvel at this, for the hour is coming in which all who are in the graves will hear his voice and come forth, those who have done good to the resurrection of life, and those who have done evil to the resurrection of condemnation. I can of myself do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is righteous, because I do not seek my own will, but the will of the Father who sent me. The fourfold witness. If I bear witness of myself, my witness is not true. There is another who bears witness of me, and I know that the witness which he witnesses of me is true. You have sent to John, and he has borne witness to the truth. Yet I do not receive testimony from men, but I say these things that you may be saved. He was the burning and shining lamp, and you were willing for a time to rejoice in his light. But I have a greater witness than John's, for the works which the Father has given me to finish, the very works that I do, bear witness of me, that the Father has sent me. And the Father himself who sent me has testified of me. You've neither heard his voice at any time, nor seen his form, but you do not have his word abiding in you, because whom he sent, him you do not believe. You search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and these are they which testify of me. But you are not willing to come to me that you may have life. I do not receive honor from man, but I know you, that you do not have the love of God in you. I have come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. If another comes in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe who receive honor from one another and do not seek the honor that comes from the only God? Do not think that I shall accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moses, in whom you trust. For if you believed in Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote about me. But if you do not believe his writings, how will you believe my words? Finally, the pool of Bethesda article. John's Gospel mentions a pool that was known in Hebrew as Bethesda, or as listed in some manuscripts, Bethesda. The exact site of the pool has not been determined, although one of the Dead Sea Scrolls indicates that people who visited Jerusalem in Jesus' day knew where it was. The 5 porches of Bethesda have led to comparisons with the porticos or porches of the ancient twin pools archaeologists found under St. Anne's Monastery in Jerusalem. Porches ran along all 4 sides of the pools, plus one through the center, dividing them. In the vicinity of the pools, archaeologists discovered a votive offering that looks just like what pagans offer to gods at healing sanctuaries. If Bethesda is the same site as these twin pools, it continued to be used for healing long after Jesus' day. Regardless of whether the twin pools represent the actual site of the pool of Bethesda, the lame man's hope in the pool resembles the practices of surrounding cultures. Many people in antiquity went to healing sanctuaries, which often included a pool, to seek healing from gods like Asclepius or Apollo. Likewise, the lame man was probably hoping for an angel to heal him. The statement about the angel stirring the waters is missing in many early Greek manuscripts of John's Gospel, but may reflect an early tradition or local customs related to the pool. The man was no doubt weak and hopeless after 38 years of confinement and affliction. Jesus, unlike the water of the pool, offered him real healing. Amen. This is the end of the Bible reading today. Thanks for joining. Have a great day. God bless you. And see you tomorrow.